let's walk and talk. Is Flatwork important? It's a very good question. Before we answer this question, let's have a little bit of whiskey. I know you can't see that there's whiskey in here, but there is. It's one of my awesome new cups on the website, Walking and Talking. This is Knob Creek Single Barrel Reserve 9-year, 120 proof. So I think it's a little bit more premium selected barrels from Knob Creek, because their general whiskey's 9-year aged anyway. So it's a higher proof, and the single barrel would just make me think that they picked certain barrels that work better. It does not say a batch size, which is good in a way, because if it's a single barrel reserve and the batch size is 500 bottles, barrel doesn't contain 500 bottles of whiskey. So, oh, interesting. On the side, it says Knob Creek Single Barrel Reserve Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey Small Batch. So it's single barrel reserve small batch. Okay, look. What I think they did is they chose a certain number of barrels that they felt were worth, that were better. Because some barrels are just better than others, even if they have the same spirit on the inside. And they selected those and they blended those together to make a more special. And they only proofed it to, 120 proof or 60%. But it's not a single barrel bottle, like where there's only, 150 to 180 bottles total. So it's just a nice, but let's taste it. So it's a little bit of a richer Knob Creek that I'm used to. Knob Creek kind of has a dryness to it, a little bit of a smokiness for bourbon. You know what I would say? It is definitely Knob Creek. So if you know and you like Knob Creek, you're gonna like this. This is definitely smoother on the palate. It's less astringent on the palate. Is significantly, there's less tannin on the palate as well. That's what gives you less astringency. But it gives you, there's butterscotch, caramel, vanilla, all of those in strong degrees that you would expect from a Knob Creek. All right, let's get to Flatwork. Is Flatwork important? I think that's the wrong question. A lot of people find Flatwork boring. I was one of those when I was younger. And honestly, the more I was taught and the more I learned and the more I was capable of, the more interesting Flatwork became to me. But again, I think, is it important is a good question. But more than that, how is it important? Because I think it's important, different than you might think. So for someone like me, I'm a show jumper. I want to jump in shows over jumper courses. So the Flatwork is all about preparing for the show ring. It is not an end in itself. So there is nothing that is required for me to do on the flat exercise-wise. If I was a dressage rider, that would be different. My Flatwork is more or less an extension of my performance work. If you're a reiner, a cross-country rider, a trotter, whatever you are, the Flatwork is to get you, to prepare you and your horse for what the real job is. Back to show jumping, my real job is to jump. But the Flatwork has critical things it does. It is fitness for you and your horse. Your horse needs to be fit, and you need to be fit to be able to perform at the show. The Flatwork also has to provide the horse, the good Flatwork makes a horse sounder. So you need to use your Flatwork to improve soundness in horses. You do this by doing certain exercises or not doing certain exercises, depending on your horse. And finally, Flatwork is there to give rideability for you in whatever the goal is for your horse. If you're a trail rider and you have a horse you ride on trails, it probably doesn't matter if you could do a leg yield, I would argue. But if you ride dressage, it really matters if you can leg yield. So one of the big misconceptions, especially in jumping, I'm sure it's similar in other disciplines as well, but I don't have experience in those, is there's this huge myth that you need to be able to do certain exercises on the flat to jump successfully. That is wrong. An example, my mare Kalinka. I have never done a leg yield with her. I've never done a shoulder in, half pass. I have never practiced any kind of lateral work at all. Yet, we can jump clear in 5-star. My point is, flat work is essential for the reasons I just spoke about. But particular exercises are not, because again, flat work is preparing you and your horse for the show ring. I don't half pass in a show ring. So, if I can navigate these courses clear, then my flat work is doing its job. Even if I can't do a half pass, who cares? If you're jumping clear, your horse is fit and your horse is sound because of good flat work. Now, what I will say is, if I'm having an issue on course, let's say I'm having an issue in collecting lines, getting the stride collected enough for the second fence. Well, I will go to my flat work to fix it. And I'll work on collections. I will talk to my vets and see if there's any biomechanical reason that's holding the horse back from compressing and pushing the hind end under their body. And then I'll do certain exercises at the trot or the canter using poles as well to improve my ability to collect on course. But if I can collect on course and it works perfectly fine, I'm not going to hammer away at that on the flat. I know some riders do that, and that's their way, and that's fine. For me, there's a very important balance with horses of keeping them fit and fresh and also going too far with exercises, getting mentally tired. Not physically, but mentally. Think of, a 2-hour maths lecture. At the end of it, you're mentally tired. And I think that's an important consideration. I don't practice things with my horses unless it's an issue in the ring. I understand when you're learning, it is important to learn how to do a leg yield so that if the need arises, you can do it. If your new horse is a little bit challenging with the lead shapes, it's important to have background so that you're able to help it and teach it. But if your horse is doing lead changes on course, I don't hammer away on the flat. That's stupid. The other thing flat work does is when you get to practice on the flat, then if you do it correctly, it gives you the knowledge and the confidence that you can do it in the show ring. Whether you're jumping, dressage, venting, whatever horse discipline. And outside of whether the horse can do it, you knowing you can do it is critical. And if you need that practice at home to believe you can do it in the ring, then do the flat work, but not to the point where it might mentally drain the horse or it might overwork the horse. But it is important. If you have confidence, you know you can turn and do a certain turn. Yes. There, and you can do it, and you've shown you can do it. There isn't necessarily a reason to practice, because it's not like, car racing or something like that, where you can practice over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and it doesn't really have an effect on the vehicle you're driving. How you drive your car, more or less, doesn't affect it. Now, I get it. You wear tires out, maybe brakes, transmission, a little bit of wear on the engine. I get it. But it's not the same as your horse. You can teach bad habits to a horse. You can't teach a bad habit to a car. And it's very important that you walk a fine line with your Flatwork. But remember, Flatwork is about fitness, soundness, and rideability. If you have those things with the Flatwork that you do, who cares if you don't do a leg yield, or you can't do a half pass? If that's not required for what you're training your horse to do, who cares? I know what I'm saying right now might be off-putting to some people, and that's fine. But when I'm at horse shows and I see 50 riders, and all 50 of them are doing different Flatwork, and not just because of the horses they're on, when I see them week in and week out, and they have different styles of different Flatwork, yet all of them can be very successful on the day. Some are more successful than others, but not because their Flatwork has a converging style. The successful ones only do a certain type of Flatwork. No. There's all kinds of different Flatwork. And so anyone who says that you need to do certain exercises to be successful in the ring, it's wrong. Like, just super wrong. It depends on your horse, and it depends on you, the rider. Because some riders can get a really good feel and teach a horse really well only doing certain exercises. Some riders use different other exercises. That is fine. Again, back to the main point. You've got to remember what Flatwork is there to do. And it's not just because you could do a half pass doesn't mean you could do something else. It might, but not always. And not, hey, I can do a half pass. That means I can turn this way now. Nope. Super dope. Remember, it's all about being effective. It's not just because I can do this exercise, then I can do this. No. You could do without. As I said with Kalinka, I haven't done one piece of lateral work in the 4.5 years I've had her. Yet, we could still be successful. If I needed to do certain exercises to be successful, there's proof that that's wrong.